Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucha Rewatch Season 3. We are on episode 13, which means that in this episode, we will be covering Lucha Underground Season 3, episodes 25 and 26. These episodes were a lot of fun, in my opinion, but don't take my word for it. Let's get a second opinion here. John, how did you feel about episodes 25 and 26, brother?
Oh, brother, I thought they were fantastic. We got the continuation of the Cueto Cup. We saw the culmination of round one in episode 25 and episode 26. We saw round two commence. And yeah, I thought there were solid matches in both of these rounds, as well as some good cinematics sprinkled throughout both these episodes. So let's not waste any more time, man. Let's just jump right into this.
All right. Well, I mean, to be fair, it does kind of feel like after we got through episode 25, it felt like we kind of got through the slowest part of season 3, because to me, the slowest part of season 3 was the first round of the Cueto Cup. And once we got out of that, it is just full gear ahead. Let's just go. And episode 26 really did pick up the pace quite a bit. But before we get to that, we do want to talk about episode 25 because there were still some really enjoyable matches on this show. Obviously, we always start out with a recap, but then we get into, honestly, personally, I might have underrated this first cinematic segment the most out of anything Lucha Underground did in season 3. So I won't call it the most underrated cinematic of the season in general, but it's probably the most underrated segment of the season for me personally, because I know that I really liked it and I know we praised it in our review, but I feel like we didn't even give it enough credit even despite that. So we start out with Dante Fox running through Boyle Heights, having these flashbacks to Afghanistan, and we see his perspective as Killshot makes his grand escape that we already saw back in season 2 when Killshot debuted, or not when he debuted, but when he had his cinematics and his vignettes and stuff. And then we get to see Dante getting basically tortured. He's getting the shit beat out of him, and they're telling him, hey, your friend left you behind, and we're going to find him and kill him. And if we don't, then we'll kill you instead. And then we literally see one of these, I'm assuming Taliban members, about to decapitate Dante, or ISIS, whatever, about to decapitate Dante with a gigantic saber. And then the U.S. Army shows up to rescue him. And, you see the moment where they see that he's got the dog tags around his neck still. And it's like this moment where it's like, we're going to take you home, soldier. And then we kind of come back from the flashback and we see him still running, but at this point he's basically in a full sprint, and it really does, you get the sense that he's trying to escape, he's trying to run away from these memories, because every time like someone throws a punch and he gets hit, he flinches in real life, in current day and current time. Like, someone will throw a punch on his right cheek and his head will move in that same direction while he's running through the streets of Boyle Heights. And then he's running away from all this, but he's running towards the temple where Killshot awaits him on the rooftop. And then Killshot does the gun taunt to Dante, and we fade to the logo. But even before I toss it back over to you, John, I love this segment. And honestly, this entire segment kind of made me feel like Dante Fox is almost Lucha Underground's answer to the Punisher. He is a tough son of a bitch.
I remember when we covered this cinematic in our formal episode, and if you remember, I was absolutely in love with everything about this. I mean, because at our TWitWoW Awards, I celebrated the hell out of this feud and just everything Killshot and Dante Fox did. And I remember what I loved about this cinematic, if I remember correctly, because I had drawn the parallels between a season of Orange is the New Black that I had watched. This was a soldier that had come home, but their war had never really ended. And really watching this again, there are two things that I pick up on, and maybe the second thing I'm reading a bit too much into, but the first thing, I love the interplay between Dante Fox's past and him still trying to shake it off in the present. Just showing in that very subtle, not overly dramatic, not caricatured way, as I've said many times before, the effects of PTSD. I felt like Lucha Underground handled this with such aplomb and such nuance that any chance I get to commend them for that, I should, because I don't think media is always successful in that endeavor. And two, upon viewing this again, I find it funny that the activity Dante is engaging in is running, almost as if he's trying to run from his past, and the temple is, emblematic of his present, and, the beef that he's trying to square away with kill shot, maybe so that he could move on with his life and keep moving forward. So I find it funny that movement itself as an activity is part of this whole dynamic here. Again, I don't know if that's me being a bit pretentious, but I just find that all these elements, like everything's deliberate. Nothing feels accidental. Nothing feels like it's being wasted or just like, oh, we've got to put something here, so let's put this. No, everything seems to have been crafted in a very thoughtful manner. And yeah, I love this cinematic. I think it's one of the standouts of the feud because you really do get Dante's perspective. And as far as your comparison at the very end, I could certainly see that. I think that's a fine parallel to draw. And yeah, this whole feud was quality to me.
Yeah, this feud was excellent, and really just want to re-emphasize how great this individual segment was. The way it was shot, the way that, every time Dante got hit in his flashback, he would flinch, and he was like, you kind of got the vibe towards the end that like he went from jogging, and then as these memories started flowing through his mind, he ended up in a full sprint. Like that effect to me, like he really, it's literally just like he is trying to run away from this, because like you don't sprint like that just because, or just because, oh, I gotta get to the temple, or just because, I gotta get my workout in, or anything like that. Like, no, that's jogging is what that is for. And this dude went from jogging, like the casual workout, like, yeah, I'm gonna get my exercise in for the day kind of jogging, to holy shit, I hate my life, I need to go like murder somebody, sprinting.
Oh no, and then that's just really what I was saying. Like that's why I really wanted to point out upon viewing this again how much I appreciate how they incorporated just the activity of movement and how
Yeah.
movement was kind of displayed here. Because that was something I think, for as much as I heaped praise in our initial review, that's something that I really didn't pick up on until discussing it with you here. And yeah, it's just really a fine piece of art as far as Lucha Underground cinematics go. Definitely, I definitely agree with your beginning sentiments that it was underrated for the season for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So after this beautiful cinematic, we get back into the temple and we get our first match of the night, which is PJ Black versus Sexy Star. And really, the story here is pretty much what you would expect. Sexy Star out wrestling PJ, but PJ being able to outpower her and use certain power based maneuvers, like, she goes for not a hurricane, a tornado DDT, and he catches her and gets her into a suplex and that kind of stuff. And it looks like she does have him on the ropes until Taya shows up at ringside, and I'll let you take it from here, brother.
Well, Taya tries throwing PJ a pair of brass knuckles. Sexy ultimately evades them, though. And then she goes to put them on because, brass knucks have been just the bane of her existence. Mundo used them against her to win Gift of the Gods. Taya used them against her to knock her out so Mundo could hit End of the World to beat her when Sexy Star was Lucha Underground champion. And now they continue to be the bane of her existence because she uses them on PJ, but the referee sees it. So Sexy gets disqualified, and your winner and advancing to round 2 of the Cueto Cup, PJ Black. And then we definitely see a more aggressive Sexy here, which is funny given events that would happen outside of Lucha Underground with Sexy Star, as she assaults Justin Borden. She knocks him out with the brass knucks post-match. So Sexy Star not happy that she got disqualified, but yeah, PJ Black advances.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that PJ got the win here, even if Sexy Star was protected as hell. They went really went out of their way to protect her and make sure that she kind of maintained her credibility and was portrayed as the better wrestler the whole time. At the end of the day, PJ advances, and I'm not the biggest fan of Sexy Star, so the fact that we weren't going to have to see her wrestle more in the tournament, I was fine with that. So yeah, PJ, and I absolutely love PJ. So I think this was one of my biggest markouts of the season, was him getting this win over her. And then, of course, his match with Puma eventually that we get around to was just incredible.
Absolutely. So, with that said, we can move on. This was another Johnny Mundo and Rey Mysterio hype video. Not really much to say about this. Like we've been saying every week with these, it's just Lucha Underground doing more traditional storytelling in pro wrestling and doing it better than most of the really major companies out there. Again, I love that with Rey Mysterio, it's about pride, it's about honor, it's about, his roots in Lucha Libre. And with Johnny Mundo, it's ego. I'm the best. When I beat Rey Mysterio, everybody's gonna have to acknowledge I'm the best. It's great stuff. So do you have anything you want to share about this video?
I really, as far as the video package goes, it was cool. I love Mundo talking about how you're not born with rock hard abs. You're not born with the ability to jump off the top rope. You got to work for it and earn it all. And Ray is just like, there's a right way and a wrong way to conduct yourself. Lucha Libre is the people's sport. I'm not the biggest dog in any fight I'm in, but you know who else isn't? The fans, and I fight for them. God, Ray, you are such a generic stereotype baby face. It's hilarious. And Mundo is just brilliant. I love Ray or Mundo. And then Mundo's like, Ray, this is Lucha Underground. You're in my world. You're going to leave the ring with a first class ticket to Slam Town.
Yeah, buddy. I love
So
it.
good.
I love it. So good.
Anyway, so then we get our second match of the night, and Son of Havoc comes out, and we don't know who his opponent is, or at least the people in the temple don't. We do as an audience. But yeah, it's Son of Madness. So we get Son of Havoc versus Son of Madness. And I gotta say, we were way too focused, I feel like, on just how good in the ring is this Son of Madness guy when he first debuted. Because second time watching this, Vampiro on commentary made this match. He did such a great job of explaining the backstory of Son of Madness and how, he must have been sent by somebody else within the club, whatever bike club these guys are in, the bike gang that they're in, to collect some kind of debt or something. And like the way that Vampiro put that angle over made this match so much more enjoyable to me because they did tell that story in the ring and out of the ring. It was great.
I completely agree with you. This is another instance, and I give a lot of credit these days since Lucha Underground's off season to NXT for doing this. Commentary is at its best when it can enhance what's going on in the ring and relay it to us, the viewing audience. And Vampiro, I think, is just so great at that. I know he's more the color guy. I think he's probably one of the best color commentators I've ever witnessed, and that's a big compliment because I witnessed Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross like at their prime, working together. So I think Vampiro is absolutely wonderful. And as far as this match goes, I mean, it had some really fun exchanges. I love the exchange where they tried going for lariats in the corner and just neither one of them could connect. I think it was just one of those really simple things that showed they came from the same club. They're almost mirror images of each other, and they can read each other already, despite the fact that this is their first interaction. I really like that. And I love, too, that Havoc ultimately wins this match, not with his shooting star press, which is his big finish, but a schoolboy, which is to say, like, I barely survived Son of Madness. I had to rely more on ingenuity than impact to beat this guy. And I'm just coming away with this win by the skin of my teeth. So I feel like the way this match was structured was also a great service to both guys. And again, in particular, the debuting Son of Madness. And I love, too, that Lucha Underground continues its trend of, just because you're debuting doesn't mean that we're going to do this big undefeated streak for you. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to protect a performer. So good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. After this, actually, did we even
Well, actually, I wanted to say, too,
Yeah.
post-match, Madness lays out Havoc and he steals his cut. So
Yeah.
that's like the big thing there because,
And I love too that like even when that happens, we get Vampiro on commentary saying once they take your colors, it's over, homie. So basically, like now Madness or somebody else from the gang or something is gonna try and he literally said extinguish Son of Havoc. So murder attempt. Let's get an assassination angle in Lucha Underground.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, shit's going down when a cut gets stolen. So after that, though,
Are you calling it a cut because of Sons of Anarchy calling it that?
well, I mean, a cut, terms are interchangeable. You can call it a jacket, a cut, like both terms work. And I think we've been over this before, because both terms are used in the culture. But yeah, so
Yeah,
after,
I only ask because Vampiro, I'm pretty sure he only throughout commentary only referred to it as his colors.
oh, his colors. Yeah, I mean, I've heard all three. I don't think you can go wrong. But Vampiro used colors, so I guess I'll call it colors. Either way, though, he takes it from Son of Havoc, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
After that, we get another round in the Cueto Cup. Ricky Mandel versus Dark Puma. Mandel, kind of shoots his mouth off, tells Puma that he's going to take him to Slam Town. Puma really doesn't like that shit. And even though Ricky doesn't get totally bitched out, like he gets maybe like one or two super kicks here, Puma still utterly eviscerates him. And he wins with that spinning driver that he does, just, planning Ricky into the canvas.
Oh, yeah, the Fire Thunder driver.
Yeah, Fire Thunder driver. And he wins in a matter of, minutes. This is probably one of the shortest Cueto Cup matches. It's either that or Mill versus Veneno, which wasn't that the episode before this. So it's funny that both of these guys, would be in those big, kind of squash matches before meeting in the middle later on. But, yeah, it's just crazy to me. The dominance of Dark Puma easily gets the win here.
Yeah, man. Really, really what's the word? Devastating? No, that's not the word. How about one-sided match here? Because Mandel gets one or two offensive moves, like you said, but really, I love the promo too, because I don't know if you noticed or if you, as a hardcore Johnny Mundo fan, would be even willing to admit, but you can clearly tell to me that Ricky Mandel was trying to channel his inner Mundo beyond just using words that Mundo would use. The promo style that he was cutting on Puma, it's like he was trying to do a Mundo impression while he was doing it.
Yeah, I'm really scared that there's gonna be a storyline in Lucha Underground where Ricky Mandel tries to become Johnny Mundo, just fully realized and take over Worldwide Underground. That's kind of some paranoia going on in the back of my mind, because you could really see he is trying to mirror him in every aspect, and of course it gets taken even further in later episodes, but we're not there yet. But I mean, he doesn't have the ability to match because Puma takes care of him in just a matter of minutes again. So yeah, imitation may be the highest form of flattery, but it ain't worth jack, son. Goddamn.
All right. Well, I guess up next we'll talk about the cinematic that we got, the backstage deal with Rey Mysterio showing up. Dragn Azteca Jr. is just like, hey, Rey, why aren't you training? You got the big match with Johnny in a few weeks. And Rey says that he wouldn't miss El Dragn Azteca Jr.'s return to action tonight for the world, and he expects him to win. And El Dragn Azteca Jr. says, after I win the tournament, I want to face you for the Lucha Underground title at Ultima Lucha 3. And then we just hear, hey, Rey, guess who it is?
Dark Puma.
He says, you better beat that cabron, Johnny Mundo. And then he tells him that he wants him to win so that when Puma wins the tournament, he can get his Ultima Lucha rematch. And this time, I won't lose.
Yeah, I love the dynamic here because, these three all kind of have, as Azteca and Puma in particular have their ties to Rey, albeit in very different ways. And yeah, all that pressure on Rey, and they just keep reminding us that Rey's big title fight is coming. And so then we go from that cinematic, which I thought was just a fun little thing there, to our main event, the final round in the Cueto Cup, round 1. Dante Fox versus El Dragn Azteca. And, to me, a great back and forth match. Both these guys got to show their, brilliant aerial stylings. Of course, the big narrative point of the match comes when Worldwide Underground comes in and, they break out, brawling with Rey Mysterio and trying to get, a one-up on him. Then Azteca tries, evening the odds, diving over the top rope onto Worldwide Underground, trying to protect Rey. And then he goes back, tries to fight off Dante Fox, but ultimately that exchange with Fox hitting the Fox catcher, which I still think is a gorgeous finisher. I absolutely love it. And Dante Fox actually beats El Dragn Azteca. Dante Fox is going to advance in the Cueto Cup. I remember when this first happened, I freaked out because I was really starting to become a huge Dante Fox fan around this time. I just think he's an incredible performer. And yeah, I just felt like him advancing in the Cueto Cup was just a brilliant move. And I thought this was a very fun main event to close out episode 25. Do you have any thoughts you want to share about this?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was really good. Man, I'm sorry. Did you say to close out episode 25?
Yeah, because I didn't see any ending cinematics on this show. Unless there was, and I missed it.
Did you just go through the entire Dante Fox versus El Dragn Azteca Jr. match?
I did. Yeah, because I said Fox won with the Fox catcher and everything, and I said, what were your thoughts on it?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you said something about a cinematic closing the show, but no, yeah, the match itself was freaking excellent. I loved this match, and I also want to point out a positive thing about Vampiro. He had another amazing night on commentary, another amazing match on commentary. He was the freaking MVP of episode 25 on commentary because even just in this match, he put over Dante Fox so much. It was awesome because he was even talking about like, oh, you know, he might be kind of new to the temple, but this kid's winning me over already and all that stuff. Like, I love Vampiro here. Yeah, these guys both are awesome. Dante to me stood out more than El Dragn Azteca Jr. And I love EDA Jr. He's awesome. But in this match in particular, Dante had more of a standout showing to me. And it wasn't even because like, oh, he did all these cool moves. It was because of his bumping. Like Dante Fox is a bumping machine. Did you see some of the insane bumps that he took in this match?
Oh yeah, dude. Dante Fox, like, I mean,
dude, Azteca hit a Hurricane Rana on him on the outside of the ring, and Fox literally just landed on his, like, right on the top of his head. Like, he didn't even try to land on his back. He just did a freaking headstand and rolled through it.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
There was another point, I think, where El Dragn Azteca Jr. did like a jumping kick to the head, and Dante, again, he did a flip and he landed like right on his neck and shoulder. Like, it was absolutely insane. Some of the bumps that this dude was taking. And yeah, man, he's just great. And then, of course, like you mentioned, Worldwide Underground does a bunch of work and Fox ends up winning. So yeah, great match. I love that Worldwide Underground is continuing to screw with Rey Mysterio and his sort of students in a way. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. So do you want to get to episode 26?
Absolutely. Let's move on.
All right. Well, we start episode 26 off with Jeremiah Crane versus Taya, and this was another really freaking good match. I loved this match.
Yeah, matches like this are why I'm so excited about Taya potentially, you know, working more intergender matches. You know, now that Sexy's gone, I don't really know if there are going to be other women that, you know, Taya can have beef with, which I mean as a compliment, because I want her to have beef with people that are antagonistic to Worldwide Underground, you know, and definitely more on the male side, because I just think it's such a fun dynamic. You know, very physical matchup. Taya, you know, being cocky and confident, but then Jeremiah would like pump kick her in the face. I think Taya's selling is fantastic. You know, I love the spot where he does the running face wash, but that kind of fires Taya up.
Dude, that to me was the spot of the match. That was great to me. And then, like, not only does it fire her up and she just gets like pumped up, but then she immediately does offense. Like, she, you know, tosses him into the corner, does the running back elbow and then the running lariat, and then she does the knee slide thing and then runs back at him and hits him in the knees to the face. And yeah, I mean, it was only a near fall, but it was still great. And like the slap exchange that we got was great between the two of them. I mean, and I love too, you know what? I'm going to say it. I love that Taya didn't oversell everything like what you expect from women in wrestling, like what WWE and even like Ring of Honor have sort of conditioned us to think women should be doing in wrestling. Because a lot of the time, like, if, for example, like the one time that the Big Show like ran over AJ Lee, he barely even touched her and she was down and out for minutes, and then they had to bring like a stretcher out and shit. And then, like, you know, I remember this one time when there were like dual super kicks from the Young Bucks on Maria Kanellis on the apron, and she was down and out for like 10 freaking minutes. Like, women in wrestling have always been portrayed as these like weak, frail, fragile characters that can't take a hit. Taya took some hits in this and she kept going, and I love that.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, watching this match again, and you know I always bring up like the match she had with Cage, like Taya is one of those performers which I think if Lucha Underground ever is considering turning her, which I have to think that they would be, she's going to be a phenomenal technico, because I'm telling you, you want to put this woman on the map, give her a Boyle Heights street fight with Pentagon Dark next season, even if it's non-title. Give them 15 minutes. She'll steal the fucking show with him, because I know they worked together in AAA and that those matches were like insane. You do something like that in Lucha Underground, because that's why I think, besides Taya not going over, of course, and I'll readily admit my bias, that's what I think kind of disappointed me about Taya versus Sexy, is that like even though Taya bled, it didn't really go to the places of like No Mas. And while Sexy did great in that match, and so did Mariposa, I know like in that environment, Taya could be 10 times better. And that's just my honest assessment. Like, I want to see her in a deathmatch style match with Pentagon Dark or with somebody of that caliber, because I'm telling you, like, she could put on such an emotional performance where she doesn't quit until she has to, I don't know, get hit with the fear factor on fucking thumbtacks or some shit. Like, she is that type of performer to me. And I just know that there is a performance in her that's just going to make her that breakout performer on Lucha Underground. Like, holy shit, Taya needs to be running more things than she is. And maybe this season, you know, coming up will be her season, because I see stuff like this and I'm like, it's got to be inevitable at this point. Unfortunately, her Cueto Cup journey ends here because Sexy Star does get involved.
Dude, I hated Sexy Star as a character in this episode. She was just like, she just came off as the pettiest little cunt.
I mean, you know, and that's the debate, right? Because someone could argue, well, Taya screwed Sexy out of her Cueto Cup ambitions.
But she didn't. That's the thing. Here's the thing. If Taya slid the brass knucks in and PJ Black used them to beat Sexy Star, fine. You owe her one. But she was the one that used the brass knucks. She got herself disqualified. And then not only that, but she used the brass knucks on the ref afterwards too. Like, you're the bitch here, Sexy Star. What are you doing?
Other people, though, might also argue that she still has to collect a debt from Taya screwing her out of the world title.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's fair. But she's still like, you know.
I just think you and I are like, come on, Sexy, like, let it go. But
yeah, maybe it is that like pro Worldwide Underground bias showing for me personally.
And dude, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I admitted it every turn. Otherwise, I know I would lose face, you know, in terms of credibility, not baby face, very quickly with our audience. But what I did like here is that Taya didn't lose right away after Sexy's interference, but she still did fall to cranial contusion from Jeremiah Crane, which led to the 3 count. And then post-match, Sexy, you know, feeling herself because I'm not a delivery woman, I'm a wrestler. Yeah, how's that working out for you? Hit Taya in the face with brass knucks as if Taya wasn't feeling down enough. But you know what? Again, we look at the aftermath of the feud. Sexy isn't going to be part of season 4. Taya is. And I'm really hoping, like, dude, honestly, I don't care if it's the Trios Championship. I would love it for a gift to the gods. It's time for Taya to win some fucking hardware in season 4. Like, I really want them to like step their game up with her.
I'm telling you, man, I think she and Jack and PJ are going to win the trios titles without Johnny.
And I hope they do, dude. Because she deserves it. Like, you know, because I will give credit to Lucha Underground for this. You know that they can tell, like, how to use certain performers when they're on a trajectory. Like, I'll give you an example. Dante Fox and Killshot season, I feel like it ended perfectly. And the trajectory they were on, they got what they deserved at Ultima Lucha Trace. But I feel like the body of work that Ty has been putting in since season 2, like, come on, guys. It's really time to give this woman her due. Time to give her bigger, you know, stages to play with, bigger feuds to be involved in. And I'm really hoping season 4 is that time, because this is a fun match, but she can do so much better than this. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So I really don't have anything else to say here without being redundant. Unless you have anything more you would like to add, we can move on.
All right, let's move on then. Up next, we had Phoenix doing some weird, like crazy, extravagant workout where he's got his legs grapevined around a punching bag and he's doing sit-ups. And as he sits up to do the sit-up, he starts throwing forearms at the punching bag. So it's like forearm sit-ups, I guess, on a punching bag. And like the amount of core strength needed to be able to pull that shit off blows my mind. So props to you, Phoenix, on that. But then Aerostar shows up and talks about how he's putting all of his money on Phoenix. And then Phoenix is just like, it's not really fair to let a time traveler gamble, is it? And Aerostar just kind of smiles and laughs it off. And then Phoenix brings up Drago, says, hey, nobody was closer to Drago than you, Aerostar. And then he's like, oh, you know, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to come to. He's going to snap out of it. He left the reptile tribe before. He'll do it again. And Aerostar just isn't really sure about it. And he's, you know, he's kind of weird. He's kind of apprehensive. And then Phoenix says, hey, man, be a little optimistic. And then Aerostar fires back with, it's not always easy to be optimistic when you've already seen the future. And then, of course, Phoenix, being the selfish prick that he is, only has one question for Aerostar. Am I going to win tonight? And I love Aerostar's response because he does this little smile and like, hand motion, like, yeah, you know, maybe not. You'll see.
You know, I have a really funny relationship with Aerostar where I feel like he's low-key one of my favorite people in the temple. Like, he's not one of those guys that, like, I'll actively mark out for and celebrate like you see me do with, like, Mundo or Dante or those guys. But he's a guy that when he's on, whether in cinematic form or in the ring, like I really appreciate that he's there. And I really appreciate what he contributes. And I loved how he played off his ability as a time traveler here. He wasn't like optimistic or like, oh, if I go back in time 5,000 times, like it's actually kind of sobering, just like how accepting he is of it. It's like whatever happens, happens. And yeah, I did love how he kind of trolled Phoenix a little bit at the end there, like, wait and see. Because he respects his power. And that's another thing I like about it too. I think that's what I'm trying to articulate. He's not like a guy that's looking to abuse it for, these concepts of, good or evil. It's just a power he has. He tries to do the best he can by it. And honestly, that's really fucking refreshing. So yeah, I really appreciate Aerostar. And Phoenix, it's one thing for you to be optimistic, but Aerostar has the power of time. I think he knows how things are gonna go. All right, stay in your lane, bitch. But yeah, I enjoyed the cinematic for what it was.
Yeah, and then we got really what might have ended up being my favorite match of the batch that we watched: Mil Muertes versus Paul London.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, the string of episodes, and I know they're gonna keep going, but I feel like the Rabbit Tribe really got featured in a nice way throughout a good batch of episodes leading up to Ultima Lucha Trace. They made me a Rabbit Tribe guy. Like, I feel like I was a little bit when we first watched the season, but watching it again, I'm like, oh yeah, I am all about what these guys are about. It's awesome. And I love the dynamic here of Paul London, just being this unorthodox guy and Mil just being serious and like this ass kicker. But you know what, though? I love that even though like Paul London still has those comedy stylings in a way, it's still a competitive match and it still has those hope spots like, oh my God, is he going to pull off the upset again? Because the shooting star press that he hits, which I think Matt Stryker calls through the rabbit hole or something, that gets Mil makes it so believable as a near fall because he kicks out at just the right time for you to just kind of exhale and be like, oh my God. So this was done superbly well. Now, I don't know if you remember, I thought that this was the one where he hit 3 shooting star presses to Mil, or I didn't know if that was the match later on that he would have a handicap match against Matanza. But I do feel like in the Mil Muertes match, he hit 3 shooting star presses and Mil kicked out of each of them.
It was 2. It was 2. Yeah, he hit 2 of them.
2 of them. Okay.
Yeah, the first one was great. The way he set him up was great because if I remember correctly, there was like a distraction thing because the Rabbit Tribe showed up twice during this match. The first one was during the crazy Paul London super kick party on the outside. And it seemed to me like the Rabbit Tribe were trying to break up the 10 count so that he could keep going, but it didn't really work out because Mil countered one almost immediately after they showed up. But then the second time they distracted Mil, and obviously one of them, Mala Suerte, got punched in the face for his troubles. But then Paul took advantage of the situation. He kicked Mil in the head and then hit a middle rope shooting star for a 2 count. And then there was a sense of urgency, and he got right immediately back up to the top rope and hit a top rope shooting star for another 2 count. But the thing is, he thought it was 3. So he celebrates. He's like, yes, I won. I beat Mil Muertes. And then he turns to the ref and he's holding up a 2. And Paul London's pissed off. Imagine being Paul London and you hit that shooting star off the middle rope for 2. And then you have that immediate sense of urgency because you knew it was 2. You go to the top rope, you hit a shooting star, and you think it was 3, so you celebrate. If that second shooting star would have been a more obvious 2 count, would Paul London have continued to have a sense of urgency and gone for a 3rd shooting star after that?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I feel like he was in that mindset of knowing who he was in the ring with, and he was just going to hit him with everything, kind of like when Vegeta really powers up and he knows that Cell's in his ultimate perfect state and he just hits key blast after key blast. And he's just like, I'll make sure he won't put himself together again. That's the kind of urgency I felt like Paul London had. Like, no, I'm going to hit him with everything and he won't be able to kick out, but he does anyway because he's Mil fucking Muertes. And yeah, then ultimately he hits the flatliner on Paul London.
But dude, the series leading up to the flatliner too, like Mil exploded after Paul London realized that that second shooting star got only a 2 count. He just punched the shit out of him. Like Paul, he like once he realized it was a 2 count and he kind of accepted it, he charged after Mil only to be met with a punch in the face. And then Mill got to the other corner and just waited for Paul to get up and hit the nastiest Reaper's Trident we've seen in a while. Then he hit the flatliner for the win.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really fun match. Again, I think it shows you the quality both of Mil Muertes as a performer, which we can never understate. But
And
Paul
you know
London,
what?
man.
I've been praising Vampiro all night. I want to take a little dump on Matt Striker here for a second.
Okay.
Matt Striker went out of his way to recommend Paul London matches from Ring of Honor in the early to mid 2000s. Now, don't get me wrong. I wish other wrestling promotions would use their platform to give some credit to promotions that their current wrestlers have been on. But Lucha Underground is not one of those promotions. And it's not because, oh, I want Lucha Underground to adopt that WWE mentality of there is no other real wrestling promotion other than us. No, it's because you have your own universe. Your entire product relies on the suspension of disbelief, so that I believe that everything happening in this universe is not possible, or even if it is possible, it's not happening in the real world universe. Now, something tells me in the Luchaverse, there's no goddamn such thing as Ring of Honor. So I don't like that Stryker basically broke kayfabe in a sense to plug Paul London's 2003 Ring of Honor match against Samoa Joe or whatever the hell it was.
I can understand that gripe. I feel like it would have been better because I remember in Lucha Underground season 1, I kind of wish that they would still do this, actually, for thinking about things that I would like Lucha Underground to bring back on occasion. When Vampiro would like sit with new performers and kind of get in their head a little bit and do like an interview style cinematic. If he did that with Paul and be like, well, how did you come upon this whole Rabbit Tribe thing? And then they establish kind of a new mythos that's still linear with Paul London's life, then maybe it would make more sense. But we never really got that. I think people that are coming to Lucha Underground, they're supposed to accept like this Paul London as an entirely like unique and separate entity from anything else that he's done. So on that basis, I can absolutely understand your gripe for sure.
All right, man. I guess next we can talk about our cinematic that we got. Oh, and by the way, Katrina did a lick of death on Paul London, and he had the biggest smile on his face, and the crowd chanted "Lucky bastard."
That was great. He was looking up like, I am so high right now. And I'm like, oh, Paul, I wish I was. So yeah, that was great.
And then we got Tejano, or should I say Tejano, in a bar with beautiful Brenda, and she's just like, hey, stud, you want to buy me a drink or whatever it was. I know she asked him to buy her a drink. I don't think she called him stud. But then he's just like, oh, what do you like? And she goes, something strong like you. And he orders 2 whiskey shots, and she takes it and he takes his, and she goes, woo, that made me dizzy. And he just says, that means it's working.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I don't know if it's just with like everything going on today. That line made me cringe a little bit.
I know,
like,
dude, it's so funny too, because when we first reviewed this show, you tried to bring up that line and I didn't hear it. So I was just like, yeah. She said she was tipsy, not dizzy. But now rewatching it, like, yeah, she said that made me dizzy. And he's just like, that means it's working. And then she say, every time I get a little tipsy, the truth comes out.
Yeah, so no wonder I guess that you felt a little confused. But yeah, I heard that the first time. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
you know that doesn't really jive with me too well. But no, like I love that one discomforting line aside, which I mean, God, no wonder that you're bland, Tejano. But you know, I love Famous B in the background. He's just kind of like miming, casting the line and reeling in the fish. It's like, yeah, bring it on home, Brenda. And you know, it really does make me genuinely curious because we saw how this all culminated at Ultima Lucha Trace. You were so serious about getting Tejano as like your clientele. Now, how is Tejano going to be managed? Because with Lucha Underground, you may assume that they're going to go like a jokey route with it because Famous B, I don't know, it kind of straddles the line of like more of a gimmicky character, but that can do serious things. Are we going to see Tejano in the title picture in season 4, or is he going to make a run with Dr. Widener Jr. and maybe Famous B comes out of retirement for it because he's egocentric for the trios championship? You know, I'm very curious how Tejano is going to be represented, given that Famous B got what he wanted. And when you see the work that he puts into it, it's like, man, he must have like a really big vision for him. So I'm curious how that's all going to come together now, because I mean, this was just hilarious. I mean, this is courtship taken to a whole new level. And yeah, I quite enjoyed the cinematic. Again, that one line aside, because I just kind of cringed up a little bit.
Yeah. But then, yeah, like I said, she talked about how the truth comes out, and he's just like, "Oh, what's the truth?" And she just goes, "You're boring."
Yeah, and Tejano is just like, Tejano's not
Dude,
bland.
he shatters his shot glass.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like,
Or no, that doesn't happen until later, because then she says about how you're an ass kicker and you're a blue collar brawler and all, but you're a little bit dull. And then he shot glass.
Tejano's not dull. Easy, easy.
And then we just see Famous B in a booth nodding with approval, and then Brenda just encourages him, just like, relax, sit down, stay a while. And she's just like, all you need is a woman's touch. And then we see Famous B doing like the fisherman reeling him in thing with his hands, and it's just great. I love these two.
Yeah, it's a great dynamic. I'm curious how Tejano will fit in with it, but this cinematic was just wonderful. I've got nothing else to really say about it. Unless you do, we can move on to our main event.
All right, man. Well, we do find out that next week we are going to get 3 huge Cueto Cup matches: Cage versus Pindar, PJ Black versus Prince Puma. I can't wait to watch that match again. And Dante Fox versus Son of Havoc. God, next week's episodes are going to be awesome, because then I'm pretty sure that's on episode 28, and then on episode 27, and then on episode 28 we get PJ versus Ray too, I believe. And then match 3, final match of the night. And John, I'm not going to say a word for the rest of this review, because I'm going to let you handle all of Marty versus Phoenix.
Look, as far as Marty versus Phoenix, the match itself goes, I've really got nothing to say, because it was an underwhelming match to me. The first time watching it, and it's not because it was necessarily a bad match, but it's like, we know how it's gonna go. We know Phoenix is OP. We know he's gonna advance. And again, I will readily admit, so I don't suffer a credibility deficit here with our audience, I'm absolutely a Marty the Moth fan. He's one of my favorite guys in the temple. I'm really pushing for him to work with Mill or Matanza or Pentagon or one of the big bads in season 4, because I want him to really canonically be a big bad, get to that level. But the big thing that pissed me off about this match, Phoenix kicked out of his finisher, and Phoenix was like a bit brutalized, at this point. So it's not like Marty hit it real early in the match and whatever. No, match had been going on a good bit, and Phoenix still kicked out, and that pissed me off, because I think it's a beautiful looking finisher, and I didn't want it to suffer a credibility deficit, so soon as to getting the job done. But Phoenix is already kicking out of it, and then Phoenix ultimately gets the win with that pinning combination he used to beat Mill for the championship. So it does him well again. But ultimately, though, I leave laughing my ass off, because Phoenix wins, but then we get the beatdown that we all remember. Phoenix gets laid out, and then Marty, really wanting to send a message, goes into his lunchbox, and what does he pull out? A fork. But he's not going to eat, over Phoenix's body or even in front of him. No, he's going to take that fork and plunder it into his head over and over and over again until he bloodies him the fuck up. All the while Melissa's going, Marty, stop! Marty, stop! No! No! And it's just pointless. It's absolutely fucking pointless, because Phoenix gets decimated. And you know something? I loved it. I loved every second of it. I loved watching it again. In fact, you know something? I'm probably going to go back and I'm going to watch it frame by frame, just so I could savor every moment that metal meets contact with flesh, because Phoenix is fucking worthless. I'm glad Melissa's traumatized. I'm glad Phoenix lost blood. And you know what? I'm glad Marty was influenced by all those people he was influenced by, because if they were in attendance, not being on death row and everything, they would have absolutely had been proud of Marty's efforts. He is a credit to every psychopath everywhere. Villainy always wins. And yeah, Phoenix, where'd that white knighting get you, huh? Where'd it get you, huh? Yeah, getting a fork to the fucking face. Favorite segment in Lucha Underground history that doesn't have to do with Johnny Mundo. This should happen every week. There's no other proper way to end Lucha Underground except with Phoenix getting stabbed to death by fine dining. That's exactly what should happen. God, this was so good. Ah. And that was the episode. Because do you really need a cinematic after this? I don't think so. I mean, this was just masterful. What did you think about this?
The fact that you were that into this is really, really disturbing, but I'm not even worried about it because I know you.
Yeah, I mean, no. Be disturbed. You should be disturbed. I was into this. I wanted it to happen again. I was rooting for Marty this whole feud. I mean, not on the Melissa side.
Oh no. See, that's where we do agree. I am also one of the people that was rooting for Marty in this whole feud. But the difference is it's because of how much I dislike Phoenix, not because I was this big, huge fan of the Marty the Moth character. I mean, I like the Marty the Moth character, but this segment was too much to me, and that's how you know it's effective, because the heel got over even to me, to the point that I had a little bit of distaste in myself for this segment. So
and there's one
underground writing team, and to Martin Casals for pulling this shit off, and for Phoenix for taking the knifing, or the forking, I should say. It was all like really well executed, and it went too far for me, which means that it went probably just far enough in general.
and can I just say, this will be my only serious note, because God, the suffering was so fucking delectable. This is why I'll always prefer Marty the Moth to Nikki Cross, because while both of them can really have their more, what I'll say, colorful moments, in the Lucha Underground universe that they've constructed, Marty can get away with that, and there's always going to be a return. Because if Nikki, here's my thing. Let me put it to you another way. If Nikki is going to be as crazy as she wants to portray herself as, she's either got to be biting people, stabbing people, or something like that, right? But she's too constrained at the same time, so it comes off as fake to me. I think that's my biggest problem personally, as somebody that really enjoys character performers. But if Marty's going to act this way, I mean, let's be real here. Him committing an act of violence like what he did to somebody that he perceives as an obstruction to his obsession, that's a perfectly logical conclusion within the bounds of this universe. That's where I think the Nikki Cross character ultimately fails, is the universe that she finds herself situated in is way too constricting for the character, because you can run the ropes and you can have the matted hair and this and that, but you still wrestle like, I don't want to say like every run-of-the-mill performer, because I do enjoy her in ring, but you get what I mean. Like, she still does business between the ropes. There's nothing really crazy beyond that. She's not trying to blow people up. Like, hell, even Orton's character, in a way, was better than Nikki Cross, because at least he tried blowing John Cena up at one point. You know, like, that's believable to me, given what they portray. But with Nikki, like, if your actions don't match up with your mannerisms, you just really come off as false, you know, and inauthentic. And that's where I really feel like Marty the Moth excels, because even if you want to say, okay, that's a bit much, or he's a bit colorful, you at least have to credit the universe and the boundaries within the universe, that stuff like this, you know, they can go to the logical conclusions of characters that they portray like this. Because I could expect him to use a fork as a weapon. I could expect him to use a fork in the way that he used it. And that's what I think I really appreciate about this character, is that Lucha Underground is willing to go where you would expect a character like this to go, and they don't flinch and they don't compromise. And that's why I think he's one of my favorite characters in the temple, because they don't, you know, put the foot on the brake. They keep it on the gas. And, you know, WWE could really learn something in their own way. I'm not asking, you know, Nikki Cross to like stab Ember Moon in the face with a fork, but like, there's got to be something you can do where I'm like, okay, it's not just a mask that you wear. It's not just something that you put on for the sake of appearance. This really is like a part of you. And like with Marty, he commands that believability that Nikki Cross doesn't to me. And I really just wanted to go out of my way and really just make those parallels, just to show why the Nikki Cross character bothers me so much, whereas I'm absolutely enthralled with the Marty the Moth character. I think it all comes down to the universes and their permissibility with these characters.
Yeah. I don't even know what to add to that, honestly.
Fair enough. I guess I said everything that needs to be said. That rounds out episode 26. So, yeah, because there was no cinematic here either. And yeah, I really enjoyed these episodes. Great that we're in the round 2 now of the Cueto Cup. And yeah, that's going to do it for Lucha Rewatch episode 13. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Ashton, to take us home.
All right, guys. Well, this is a lot of fun. I'm glad that John got to kind of talk as much as he did about how great his fandom for the Marty the Moth character and everything about it and Lucha Underground and all that stuff is. But yeah, that about ends it for this episode of Lucha Rewatch. We're going to close it out here. Of course, remember to like the video if you haven't already. Once this video gets fully processed, you can leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought about the show, our analysis, analytics. God damn it. I am way too caught up in football analytics. What you thought about our analysis of the show. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel. And then, of course, if you want, you can click on the bell icon to get notified every time we go live or upload a video. We've got all kinds of playlists listed down in the description. If you want to watch previous seasons of Lucha Rewatch, we've got the playlist for seasons 1 and 2, as well as the ongoing playlist for season 3 that we are adding to with this video down in the description, as well as our season 3 live reactions and reviews, both in playlists. And of course, if you're interested in supporting TWitWoW, you can do so by either buying our merch on our Teespring store or donating to our Patreon. It's only $3 a month, and you can get access to the official TWitWoW patron Discord, as well as that money accumulating over time so that you'll be able to buy and request live reactions and reviews from us to wrestling shows and or a wrestling show of your choosing. Plus, all that also combines and gets added into the community goal, which obviously our goal there is to maintain the $120 goal so that we can continue live reacting to progress every single month and not just do it in January and never do it again. That would be the worst. So we will, of course, see you guys tonight for NXT. Remember to follow us both on Twitter, like the Facebook, check out the subreddit. See you tonight for NXT. And then next Monday is when a crazy, packed, stacked week of TWitWoW content begins. But until then, of course, you've got to remember to stay tuned.